So we will discuss data structures and string manipulation under this topic. Right, now data structure means we can hold data together. Now we already know we can use variables to hold data. But when you want to hold like a lot of data, like multiple data items together, then we could use different data structures. So depend on our requirement, we could have used different ways of storing data, and that is exactly what our topic for today's talk. Now there are 4 built-in data structures available in Python, which we call list, tuple, dictionary and set. So depend on your requirement, you may have to choose one of these, right? And we will see when we should use these different types of data structures. Right, now to start with, we will start with lists. Now one thing you need to remember, there are a few things you need to remember. The list, it's like an array. Now if you have done arrays in other programming language, in Python we used to say lists. It's a list of items, but slightly different from other programming language. For example, Python list can hold different data items together, whereas in arrays in some other programming language you could store only one type of data, right? So here are a few things you need to remember. So when you talk about a list, it's an ordered collection. Ordered collection means you can identify first item, second item, third item and so on. There's an order when you hold data with lists. That's the first thing. Secondly, you can actually create a list. That means you can create an empty list, for example. You can add, you can remove, or you can search for item in a list. So I told you, like in list, you have a collection of items, right? Then you can remove items and you can add items. Now because of that, since you can change the content, we call it a special name for that. List is a mutable data type. The term mutable we use here to say that, okay, you can change the way you want, right? I think now we can go for an example. So let me start with the idle. Right. I will write a program for this. Okay. Right. So let me divide the screen into 2 parts. Right. Now the first thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to create a list. So I can create a list with a set of numbers. Actually, you could have used strings, floating point, and you can mix it if you want. But for the time being, I'm going to create a list to hold the numbers. Now, for example, since I am going to store a set of numbers, I'm going to say number list. So this is a single name. I'm going to give a collection of data items. And the data items are enclosed in square brackets like this. Remember, the type of bracket is very important in Python. So a square bracket means this is treated as a list. So let's add some items to start with. So let's say we have 11, 2, 23 and 45 and 15. Let's assume that these are the set of numbers I'm going to store inside this a list, and we named it as number list. So let me run this. So first of all, we know that we need to save this. Right, this is program number 24, lists. Right, now when you save it and when you run it, it will create, right, when you run it, it will create this number list. So you can look at, if you want, we can say number list will give you a set of numbers. So which means if you want to print the list, you could have said, okay, to print you can say print number list, which will print everything. So if I run it, you will see now again it will rerun, and then the numbers are printed like this. Okay, Now when you talk about the numbers, then we have to, since there's an order, we should be able to access each of individual items, right? Now in this particular case, right? So let's take a so let's say in this one it's like something like this. I'm going to actually create a set of, I'm actually reserve an area in the memory to hold multiple values. So that's exactly what we do with the lists. So here we have five slots, right? And then we put a single name. The name we put for this, all the 5 elements, we put a single name, and that name was, we put number list, isn't it? Number list. So this is what we have used right now. And then we have stored some values as well. The first one we have 11, right? Then we have 2, we have 23, right? And then we have 45, and then we have 15. Now there should be a way to access each of these values. Now for that we have index. In Python, index start with 0. That means the position indicates with 0. Start with 0. Then the second one is 1. Third one is 2. Fourth one is 3. Fifth one is 4. So this is called index. Right? So this is called index. So index could be used to access each individual element. Now for example, now if you want to access the first element, let's say this element. If you want to access this first element, so this is how you should type. You should say the name of this, that means number list, and within brackets you can put the index. So in my case it's 0. Similarly, if you want to access the last item, for example, if you want to access the last item, yes, you can say, okay, we can say, okay, number list. We know index is 4. So that will be the last one. So this is how you can actually access individual elements. Now let's see. Now here we have this number list. We have a number list which will print all the numbers. Let's say the first one we need, we can say number list. Within brackets we put the index value. So the 0 means the first element. So we are getting 11. Then number list. Then the second element is, right? That is the index is 1. We are getting 2. Right? Then we have 2. It goes on like this. But if you exceed, you will get an error. Now, for example, if I take this 3, 4 also works. But there's nothing in 5, which will get an index out of range error. So it says the index is not correct for the last item. Okay, now we have discussed how to create a list in Python. We have created a number list, okay, and then we have printed the whole list, and now we have learned how to access individual items, right? So that part we have done. Okay, now since we have done this, right, we can talk about how to print item in a list. Now one way you can do is you can use a for loop, right? So you can use a for loop. For, we can say I in range, okay, we can say, okay, len number list. What do you mean by this? This is to say that, okay, I'm finding the length of this list. The length is 5. So that means range 5 means you have values from 0 to 4. No issue, right? So we can say print number list. We could have said like this, right, to access each individual element. So this is one way to access element. But there's an easier way. What is the easier way? Now when you have iterate of numbers, you can simply type like this. You can say for I in, right, number list. You have a direct access to this one. Right? Then you can say print I instead of that. We are getting the same answers. Right? Make a note of this. This is very, very important. So you can think of, using existing knowledge, you can come up with something like this, but this is the shortest. Simply you can say you have a variable and then you iterate over the values in number list and then you print it. Right. Okay. Now we have learned how to store data items, how to print whole list, how to print individual lists. Right, and then values as well. Now there are other methods that you can work. Now for example, length. Now remember I use here length. What happens? Now when you say number list, we know there are like 5 items inside. And when you say len number list, right, it says there are 5 numbers in the list. Right, any questions up to this point? If it is clear and if you have already done all the examples, you can raise your hands. Yes.
So now, when we write for I in number list, the variable I is not defined anywhere, right?
Yes. In Python, you don't have to. You don't have to. In Python, you don't have to. Now remember, it's not like in any other programming language. This is dynamic type, which means the type of the variable which defined on the fly. On the fly means when you work with it. Now one thing I can tell you, this is something extra. I can say, okay, mixed list. In Python, we can have list like this. We can have integer values. We can have floating point numbers, we can have strings, right? Everything is possible in Python, right? Now for example, here if you say for I in mixed list and print I, let's see what will happen. Still it works, right? So what happens here, the I? Now since you have the question, so the first thing, it will iterate. Now for loop, if you remember my definition for for loop, it will iterate over the items. So this is the mixed list where we have different type of data. So first of all, it will access int value. Next, it will access floating point number. Finally, it accesses a string value. I don't know whether my answer is clear to you. Yeah. It's slightly different from any other programming language because Python, can on the fly can decide the appropriate data type. Anyway, good question. So in our case, we can say for I in mixed list. So what happens here, it will go iterate through the individual items. So in our case, when I say for I in number list and print I, so it will first take the first item, that is 11, and it will print it. Secondly, it will get number 2, it will print. Then 23, 45, 15 and so on. Right. If you are clear up to this point, can you please raise your hand so that I can move on to the next one? If you are comfortable with this. Right. Right now we discuss print the list. We can print the first item. Remember, first item index is 0. Right. So if I rerun this, you could see here are the outputs. This is the printing whole list, and then we are printing the first item. And if we want to print one at a time, printing one item at a time, then the method we have used for I in number list, we said print I. Right. So if I rerun it, now you could see we came up to this point. So it will iterate through all the elements in the list and print one element at a time. In this particular case, one number at a time. Okay, Amila, is it clear to you? Amila, Niroshan, any questions? Asela, Chamira, Harita, Harshana? If you do not understand, you can ask me to repeat. I am happy to repeat again. Lahiru? Right, okay, you can lower the hands. Thanks. So now list is a mutable. Mutable means you can change. When I say change, that means you can add new items to this list. You can add new items. Now for that we can use append method. Now for example, I can say, okay, right now in the number list, I have 5 items. Okay, I can say number list dot append. Now this append method can insert or append an item to the existing list. So let's say I'm going to put 29. So if I put append, and if you print the list again, so this time you will see, right, it is appended at the end. When you say append, whatever it takes, connect to the end, right? So in this particular case also, when you say append 29, 29 is appended to the previous list. So that is what will happen using append method. Another example. Now let's say the second value, second item is 2. Let's say I want to change it to 20. This is easy to do this. So for example, I can say number list. Second item means index is 1, and we can say that it's equal to 20. Right. Now if you print number list again, you can see that the second item is changed it to 20. So that's about the append method. Append always comes at the end. Now there's another method which we call insert, where you can insert anywhere you want. Let's say we want to insert something as the third item. So what we can do, we can say number list dot insert. When you say insert, we can give the index you are going to insert. Right? So let's say as a second item 0, 1, 2, second item, let's say I want to add, let's say 3. I will repeat one more time. I am going to add to the index 2, that means as the third item, because we start with the 0, 1, 2. Right now 2 is 23. I am going to change it to let's say 30. Now let's say we have 3, right? In this case 3. So right now if you get this again, you can see that yes, 3 is inserted as the third item, right? This is how you can manipulate the files. Right, finish up to this point, and if you are comfortable, please raise your hands. Right, thanks everyone. You can lower the hands now. Okay, now that we have learned these two methods in the list, we know now we can manipulate, meaning you can add. We learn how to add to the end of the list, and at the same time we learn how to add in the middle, right? So let me put this in my code also. So print one item at a time. Okay. Insert item at the end of the list. So we can say, okay, number list dot append, we can say 29. Then insert item, insert 3 as the third item, right? Third item. So for that we have used what? Number list dot insert. First of all, the index. So as the third item, meaning we want to have 0 for the first item, 1 for the second item, 2 for the third item. So the index is 2. The value, the object is 3, right? So 2 comma 3. That's what I put. Now I can, let's say, print number list. We can see the changes. So let me run my code. So it will start from the beginning. Right now 29 is at the end and this is 3. Right, now I would like to discuss the changes to this. In this particular case, the change means I'm going to change it to let's say a value to 20. Like the second element, I'm going to put 20. Right now the second element is 2, right? I want to make it 20. So when you say second element is 20, we can say number list number list 0 1, right? Because the first one is 0, second one is 1. So I will assign it to 20. Now assignment, once you do that, if you take number list again, now you can see the next item is, so make it to 20. Right. So that's, you change an item. So now we can say change the second item as 20. So what we did, we get number list. Second item means index is 1 because 0 is the first one, and then make it is 20, and now we can say print number list. Now let's see, run module. So you can see that, okay, after this one, earlier we had 2, now we had 20. So this is change in the second item as 20. Okay, last two operations. Now let's say you want to remove something, right? You want to remove something. So we have actually, over the code I have put in the note. So if you miss something, you can easily get it to the note, right? To remove, we can have like two ways. So let me share the two ways first. Right? The first one, you can delete with the index. So key is del. When you say del, it's delete. What you are going to delete is number list. Let's say I'm going to delete the first item. So the index is 0. So I'm going to say delete number list, and within square brackets I will put 0, which means, this means I'm going to delete the first item. Now again, let me see the number list. Now you see the 11 is gone from this list. We end up with this, right? Now the next one is, let's say I want to remove something in the middle. You can use index, but if you want to remove something with the value, there's another way. So we can say number list dot remove, and with the remove you can specify value. Let's say I want to remove 23, so I can put 23, which will remove from the list. Now if you look at the 23 is gone. So there are two ways that you can remove. Remember, so one is using the index, that means using the position. Second one is actually using any values, here using remove and with a set of values.
So
Okay,
if you have several 23 values,
it will delete only the first one, if I remember correct. So we can try that. Right now, let me try. So we have first iteration. In the documentation it's talk about this, but what it says, if I remember correct, it will delete the first item, first iteration, right? So for example, let's say 23 here. Now right now we'll have 20 number list. We have these numbers. Let me add 3 again. So I'm going to say number list dot append 3. So now you can see in the number list there are 3 locations. We have 3. So when I say number list dot remove 3, so that was your question, we can see what happens. So ideally it should remove the first iteration. Good question. I hope you got the answer.
yes.
Yes, okay, thanks. Right, now having said that, I hope now you are comfortable with removing elements. There are 2 methods we have discussed. One thing is using the location, the position, using del keyword, and the second one using remove method or remove function. There we will use the value. So if you need more details, again get the help. When you're getting help, remember to use list dot, for example, remove. Will tell you, right, the details. ඔයාගේ එකේ ගහලත් පුළුවන් ඉතින්. නැත්නම් මෙතන මන් දාලා දෙන්නද? WhatsApp එකට දාන්න පුළුවන්? බෑ. ආයෙත් ඊමේල් එකක් එවන්න. ඊමේල් නෑ, ඒක යූසර් and password මොකක්ද නෑ. මම දෙන්නම්. ඒක අර ඩ්‍රයිව් එකෙන් දාන්න බෑද ඔයාලට? මම ඩ්‍රයිව් එක සේව් කරන්න.
අපේ ස්ක්‍රීන් එක අයිපත් හරවන්න කොහොමද?
Okay, finish up to this point. Those who finish up to this point, can you raise your hands? So let me add the last 2 points I have mentioned. The first one, we have remove the first item in the list. We use del number list. We use 0 to indicate that the first item. Second one, remove the item, remove an item based on the value, in this case 23. Now for that we have used number list dot remove, and then it says the value, we can say 23. Now after removing these two, we can print it, the number list, and we can see the outcome. Let me run module. So you can see here, so in the first iteration we have these numbers. We have removed the first item, as well as 23 by using the value. Right, okay, thanks. Finally, we'll finish the discussion of lists by removing the whole list. I can simply say del number list, which will remove the whole list. Right, so when I want to remove everything, we can say del number list, which will remove everything. Now, if you try to find number list, then it says there's nothing called number list. So with that one, I will finish my code. So I can say, okay, remove, we can say number list, remove, or no, we can say delete the list. We can say, okay, del number list, which will delete whole list, right? So make a note of this, and in the note, actually, I have included everything. And if you need the code, maybe I can copy paste in case if you want to take it. Right now, yes, in the chat session, I have copy pasted my whole code in case if you want to take down this. Right. Okay. So with that one, actually, we finished discussion of lists in Python. What you need to remember briefly, the list is actually ordered collection of items. So there's an order specified by using the index. So index 0 means the first item, 1 means the second item, and so on. Then to represent list in Python, we use square brackets. So we will see in the coming sessions the other ones. Right? So you can create a list. You can, once you create the list, you can add, you can remove, you can search for an items, and then you can add or delete or remove the list. So since you can manipulate the list, we call it a mutable data type. Right? No, so that part we did, and here are the ones actually we used. Okay. Quick exercise for you to try this, and once you finish, please raise your hand, and at the same time you can share the code with me. Hari, go the window. You got office. ඒක තමයි තියෙන අවුලනේ. එකයිද තියෙන්නේ? පොත්
දෙකයි.
එකක් තියෙනවා. මේක නෑ මේ ඒක ගිහුවා හරි. ඉන්ටර්නෙට් කනෙක්ට් කරලානේ තියෙන්නේ. ඔන් කරන්න ඕනේ. පවර් දුන්න.
හොඳයි නේ.
come.
Okay, remember that this is a list of items, so this is string, right? So make sure you use either single quotes or double quotes to store this item in a list. Okay, so I got the answers from Saumya and Harshana. Senu. Okay, so let's together develop the code for this one. So I'm going to open up a new file for this. Right, let's see what I'm supposed to do. Right, okay, the first thing I'm supposed to create a list with the set of items. So let me say it's a shopping list. Right, so square brackets, I need to use square brackets because it's a list and the items are apple, then mango, carrot and banana. Right, and then we are supposed to print the length of the list. Like that's all, right? So let me run this. So I need to save. Let me do this. This is program number 25. Right, if I run it, it says there are 4 elements, which is true, right? Apple, mango, carrot and banana. Right. Print the items on the list. So when I say print item, you can either use print shopping list, or else we can say for I in shopping list. You can use any of these print I. So printing I have done both ways, but one of the ways is enough. So if I rerun, so we can see we have 4 elements, the length is 4, and here is the whole list of item as a list, and this is individual items. Right, let's move to the third one. Next one. Add rice to the list. It doesn't say where to, so I can use append, for example. I can say okay, shopping list dot append, and I can include rice. Right, so I can say print shopping list. Right, so now I have added rice. If I say run module, you can see now rice is also added here. Right, then I'm supposed to sort the list. We have not discussed this, so therefore let me try sort. So for the details you can type help list dot sort and it will give you, oh sorry, help list dot sort. Yeah, so if you read the documentation, it says something like this. Sort self, which means the list, sort the list in ascending order and return none, right? Okay, sort in place, the list itself is modified, which means your list will be sorted after this. Okay, and then if you want to reverse it, you can say reverse is true. Now reverse false means a descending order. Right, now let me go back. So since we have a shopping list, when I say shopping list, we are getting this. So shopping list dot sort will do the job, right? So now if you take shopping list again, this is sorted. We have apple, banana, carrot, mango and rice. And at the same time, if you change this, the reverse, if you say true, right? When you say true, and if you take the shopping list again, now it's in the ascending order. So make a note of this one as well, because we have not discussed this earlier. So the sort method in list will sort the items in the ascending order. If you have to make it descending, then you have to change this reverse in this particular case, and then you have to pass the argument as true here. Okay, right. So with that one, if I go back to my shopping list, what I'm supposed to do is sort the list. So I can say okay, shopping list dot sort, and then print only the first item of the list. So print, we can say shopping list only the first item, so we can have index 0, right? Remove the first